Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous News. This is Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo. It's just right around April 17th by the time you guys see this. So it's about a week since the reveal of the dogfighting module. And I've had a lot of time to think about it, and so have many of you. And I've read a lot of reviews and a lot of threads in general chat and subscriber chat, and have come up with my own, well, pretty much my own, but shared opinion of the dogfighting module reveal. First thing I want to go over is the importance of being able to do a good presentation and to be ready for things to happen, like computers not working, networks going down, or lockups. There's always supposed to be a couple of machines that are on the stage at once, and it's something that they haven't gotten around to understanding yet. They are quite new at doing the presentations, but they really have to step up in the future. So that is all of the criticism, I guess you could say, I have. I just think that there should be a much more professional feeling, and there's got to be much more preparedness. All right, so we're going to move away from that. We're going to move on to the next subject, which is going to be what did I feel about the dogfighting module? First thing I have to tell you is the bugs did make me a little bit concerned, but it seemed that most of the bugs were actually in the client and not in the actual dogfighting module itself. It seemed to be them closing out either from other things running on the computer or the server side just not working. There were some bugs in the dogfighting module, but this being an alpha and most of us being alpha testers, we're going to find those and hopefully help to present them to CIG so they could squash them. One of them seemed to be when Chris first started up the, when he started up the dogfighting module for the first multiplayer, his ship just started spinning around and around and around. And that was one of the things that was presented to us in the movie leading up to them, well, the video that they had leading up to the actual reveal of the dogfighting module. And it might just be that there wasn't the latest build on the SSD drives they brought to PAX East with them. Maybe it was the final build, but those type of bugs just are going to happen, and I think those are the ones that are going to be easiest to get out of the way. It's more the connection side that worries me, because there are citizens like myself all over all over the world, from the US, Canada, to Europe, Asia, we're everywhere, and we're going to want to play together. And this is the biggest piece that has drawn many of us in here, which is that we can all exist in this universe together wherever we are in the world. And although we might not be able to fight each other at times because of ping times, we can actually still do things. And being that the dogfighting module is the first piece to use this world server, it shows that there's got to be some work done on that end of it. Or possibly it was a local server and it was just botched because they were using brand new machines that weren't fully set up for this stuff. I'm not sure, so I'm not going to give an opinion on it. I'm just going to say those things concern me. The dogfighting module, or I should say the gameplay itself, was pretty impressive. The graphics were incredible. The sounds, a little weak at this point, but sounds are probably one of the last things that are going to be tweaked. But I can see this game in the future with Connies, Retaliators, Gladiators, Hornets, and all these other ships in space all at once being probably the most fun that that our collection of fans will ever have. Well, hopefully. Anyway, the ships themselves look gorgeous. The way that they articulated around their axes or maneuvered around their axes, the way that the jets, the maneuvering jets, the thrusters were moving and the thrust vectors were moving. It was very, very cool. And when Chris put it into Newtonian physics mode, it just wowed the bejesus out of me. I am very impressed with this. I was a bit concerned with some of the questions that were being asked about how many people could be in space at once. And what concerns me is what it's taking to run this game. I currently have an i7 running at 3.4 gigahertz. I have a GTX 680 MX with 2 gigs of RAM. And in the Hanger module, 1920 by 1080, I'm getting around 60 frames a second as long as I turn off motion blur until I walk out into the middle of it and turn around and see all the ships. And then I drop to about 20. It concerns me that we might be fighting 30 on 30, according to one of the answers, where Chris said maybe the population cap would be 50 to 60 in an instance. This is going to mean that we are going to almost definitely need to have cards that are Crossfire or SLI'd, and that's going to be a hefty sum of money, or graphics are going to have to be toned down quite a bit. And what I mean by this is these ships that we're going to be flying, each one of them is well over 750,000 polygons. I think the smallest one, the Aurora, has 350,000, but you're going to be flying around in ships that have 1 million or more polygons inside of them, and the high definition textures and PBR and everything articulating and being rendered separately. It's going to be a bear to run this. And it doesn't scare me. It actually motivates me to start getting my act together and start thinking about what rig I'm going to have to play this game. So what the dogfighting module has done for me is it's giving me confidence in the game itself. I think the game is going to be incredible. It makes me look at CIG and say, you know, guys, you need to just step up and you need to prepare a little bit better for these events. And I understand that you're under the gun, back up against the wall, got to get this done, but there's got to be a plan B. What if it doesn't work when you get there? You have to be able to present something to everybody. And while I was extremely impressed at the end of it, there were times in the beginning that, you know, while we were waiting, that I was starting to feel this just doesn't feel like a, you know, that they're. It just didn't feel right. Again, I said that's my only criticism. I'm longing for this game. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things that's got me going right now. I have a benefactor that was able to help me get started on a rig. And it's not going to be an impressive rig at first. It's going to be a starter rig. So I'm going to start building my gaming rig. I think what they're setting me up with is a Cooler Master case, a Corsair 750 watt power supply, an H60 or 70 or maybe 50, I'm not sure, water cooler, a AMD 9370 Vishera. I think that's the FX 9370 Vishera. I think that's how you say it. 8 gigs of RAM, a AMD R9 270 from Sapphire, and Corsair, the higher end SSD drive, 250 gigs or 240 gigs. So they're putting together a pretty impressive system for me. And it's not, you know, it's not by choice. This person is doing it for me and, you know, pretty much presenting it to me. So I don't mind not having a choice. But when I look at the rig, I look at a couple of things like, I know that AMD versus Intel is faster, and I know AMD versus NVIDIA, it's still yet to be determined because this whole mantle thing is still hanging in the breeze over there, right? So I'm going to just sidetrack a little bit into what this mantle is. The new R series of cards, the R9, R7, I think it's the R9s mostly, have this API built in called mantle. So way back when 3D gaming first started, you had a lot of 3D FX stuff, and you had a lot of games that were being made for specific graphic cards. Microsoft stepped in and made an open API, which is, I should say, a unified API called DirectX, and that's what we've been stuck with ever since. Now, DirectX, while it is an API that gives access to the hardware layer, every call has to go through DirectX, and DirectX needs to get some permissions or some looks from the CPU. So even though the GPU is going right to DirectX to make certain calls, it has to sometimes await for some kind of a call to the CPU. I am so sorry about that. That is the Apple Store saying my daughter's laptop is on its way. Cool. So DirectX has been with us for quite a long time, and if I needed to think hard about this, it's probably been with us since Windows 98, maybe. I don't know. Over 15 years, right? So today, when we're playing games like that are based on the Crysis engine, it's really important to squeeze out every frame you can so you can do the things in a game's graphics that you want to do. And today, it's gotten to the point where DirectX just isn't going to cut it. It's not slow and it's not bad. It's just not 100% the right thing to do. So there has to be an API that allows a game to directly access a hardware like a graphics card to do exactly what it wants to do when it wants to do without having to first go to the CPU or to the operating system to request that call. So Mantle is the first one of these APIs to come out. I'm sure that at some point you'll either see something that's collectively built by the different hardware manufacturers, or maybe NVIDIA will have their own. But with Mantle-enabled cards, and Mantle being supported by the new Crysis engine, and Star Citizen being based on that Cry engine, we are definitely going to see a little bit better frame rates at some point, or a little bit more things that you can do from this, from the AMD series of cards. And that in no way, shape, or form says that they're the only card that you can use, since Chris Roberts himself has many, many times said he's got Twin Titans running in his gaming rig. I just didn't have the money for it. So when I was looking at the cards that were in similar price ranges, a 760 and an R9 270, I decided that if this person was going to build me this rig, that I would go with the R9 because it will at least get me into the game. So I've got a pretty decent machine. I still have to get speakers and a screen. Those are things I have to come up with, and that's going to be a while. So I'm not going to be able to play on this rig because I'm going to be cash poor for a while. But I think that just having the rig in the house, or being able to plug it into a HD TV and play that way, is going to be pretty cool. So I can at least get an idea of what the hanger module is going to look like on a rig that could actually go faster than the one I have right now. My iMac is amazing, but it just doesn't cut it when it comes to Windows gaming sometime, because it's using a mobile graphic card. And although mobile graphic cards are great these days, they're a little slow. So the whole point of this conversation was I have to build a rig because of what I saw in the Dogfighting module. It is that awesome that you're going to want to play it on everything full. And if you don't play it on full, you're just not going to get that full immersion experience that Chris is giving you. And what that means for a lot of you, that is, it's not just going to cost you $40 to some of you $10,000 on the ships that you want to play in the game. It's going to cost you some costly upgrades in your rigs. The other thing I saw in this dogfighting module was the controls, right? So you're looking at the way that they control the ship, and they didn't bring the HOTA systems with them because it was easier just to bring the Xbox controllers for saving weight and space in the, sending things from Santa Monica and Austin over to PAX East. So they were playing with Xbox controllers. But very quickly, you could see how important a HOTAS, hands-on throttle and stick, throttle and stick, are going to be to playing this game. I'm not saying that you're not going to be able to play it in other ways, like with the Xbox controller or a Logitech, controller or Warthog. You're going to be able to play it any way you want. But if you want to get the full feeling of flying a space fighter, and also not have to worry about where your keyboard, taking your hand off the throttle or your hand off the stick while you're playing to hit the keyboard, you're going to want to get a good HOTAS system. And when I was looking at these, they range in a variety of different types. You have CH products, you have Thrustmaster, you have Saytech being the top three. You also had something out from Logitech for a while, but I see that it's been pulled off the market. And then you have the all-in-one joysticks like the ones that Logitech, Saytech, and Thrustmaster put out. So you have a whole bunch of these different HOTAS systems or joystick systems. And of course, there's always mouse and keyboard, and also the Xbox controller. But I've been doing a lot of research, and I've come down to a decision that I want to get the X55 Rhino. It's pretty throttle and stick. I think the stick itself is based on the F-18 Hornet, the real-life Hornet. I watched a couple of unboxings and a couple of reviews on YouTube for this product, and it seems like it's going to be the best bang for the buck. It's a $200 setup, but it feels like it's a little bit better than that. It's made out of plastic and not metal. It's not heavy, it's light, but it doesn't slide on your table, so it's pretty sturdy on the table. But it has all the bells and whistles and switches and knobs and dials that you could want in a HOTAS. And when you want to just pull back your pinky and get rid of the computer-assisted maneuvering and want to go right into Newtonian mode, you could just pull back that pinky, pull your pinky finger on there, spin it around like Chris did, and, slide, slip, and twirl like a ballerina all through the dogfighting that you want. Also, that's going to be a good setup for the people that like to play Elite Dangerous or War Thunder, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So this is where I've come to. The dogfighting module has made me go out and build a PC and think about getting this HOTAS. And I think that's the best compliment I can give to CIG, is saying I was so impressed, I needed to go and get ready for it. So what's my opinion on when it's going to be out? Well, first off, I think it's going to be out when it's ready. But I think that from the bugs that we saw, they're at the end of the bug squashing to put something into alpha. Remember, we're going to be alpha testing this. We're not going to be beta testing it, or we're not going to be looking for this to be complete. We're going to be looking for this to have lots of little bugs that we're going to have to find and submit reports on and get fixed. The game will be out when it's out, but for those of us that can, that have got the packages that allow us to play the game, we're going to be able to go in there and start flying around and figuring out what's going wrong with it. All right, so that leads us to something else. Over the last week, there are no more alpha slots. So there are many of you that have purchased a ship prior to the alpha slots disappearing. And I believe what I'm about to say is both for people that purchased ships before and after that point. And I'm just going to go with that. If you have a ship and there is no alpha slot, I believe you can now buy an Arena Commander Pass, and we're going to find out exactly what that does. I don't know if it's a one-day or not. An Arena Commander badge gives new backers access to Star Citizen's Dogfighting Alpha. Be one of the first to get into space, pick up this badge to get early access to Star Citizen's immersive space combat action. All right, so if you have alpha slots, you don't need this. If you don't have an alpha slot, you need this. Alpha slots are those accounts that, or not accounts, but those packages that came with a character slot. How do you know that? You just do, because it's everything above the mercenary pack. Well, everything from the mercenary package and above. It's $5 for that, by the way, which is pretty cool. And I think it's $5 for the whole time. So that leads us to the next piece. What if you don't have a Hornet? Because it looks like it's just going to be Hornets to start off with. Well, if you don't have a Hornet, there's going to be a Hornet loaned to you until your ship is available inside of the dogfighting module. All right, so we got through that one. The next thing to talk about is that we hit a very, 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 very big huge landmark funding goal, and that's $42 million. So this past week, Chris Roberts, right after the PAX East, I believe, the reveal, we hit $42 million, and thus we have unlocked quite a few things. An updated Observus guide, Explorer class Mobiglass, and the Gladius, which sounds too much like the Gladiator. I think that needs to have a name change. But the Gladius is going to be the first fighter that is going to be designed fully by the team in Manchester. So in other words, the Foundry 42 team. And it is going to be an Aegis produced ship, Aegis dynamic ship. And it's going to be another aging ship. Aegis has aging ships, I guess. I guess that's what Aegis means. So it's something that's going to not be so modular. It's going to be very fast and maneuverable, and it's going to be the fighter pilot's fighter, I guess. And we're going to have to wait and see that one. So what happened? What did we get in this one? We were asked to vote on some things the last time. The $44 million stretch goal, when we hit it, because there's no way we're not going to, it's going to be stellar cartography. And this looks like it's going to be a room that is going to be in your hangar. Of course it is, because that's what they told us to vote on, right? So take a look at that. There's another vote going on the website, and I don't know which one's in the lead right now. Maybe I can give that one away fast. Nope, it is definitely no leader. There are two that are tied for first place right now. Updated scanner software and engine tuning kit, both which I think are going to be imperative to you at some point in the game, right? Updated scanner software. Maybe if you're a bounty hunter or a pirate, you're going to need that to know what's on the other people's ships. And of course, the engine tuning kit. Well, what if you're a racer? Or what if you're a a border runner? I don't know. You're going to need to tune your engine to go faster, right? So those two things are pretty cool. We had a Wingman's Hangar. We had another next generation Starship. Nothing really big on either one of those shows. I swear it felt like I blinked and Eric was going off camera. They are working very hard on that dogfighting module, and that much I can tell you. Chris did read a long letter from the people at Operation Pitchfork, which the enablers, one of the organization I'm a member of, is definitely going to be taking part in, but the Operation Pitchfork is a pretty imaginative endeavor where on day one, with permission from the UEE, everybody that joins in is going to go and invade Vandal space, try to do whatever they can to raise mischief and cut off supplies and take down ships, and pretty much it's a suicide mission, but it's going to be fun. And the people have been organizing this for quite some time. It's a very long thread inside of the general chat session. And let me tell you, this is my MVP thread for all time at this point. Pretty cool. All right, so what else do we have here? Not a whole lot. I want to touch on one thing, though. World of Tanks, I think it's 1.9. I think that's the... Oh, it's 9.0. World of Tanks version 9.0 went live today. And the reason why I'm bringing this up to you has nothing to do with anything except for one thing. It is a game where you can go in now and see effectively huge ships, tanks in this case, that used to be standard graphics and are now PBR'd. So look for YouTube videos and such to see how that has changed that game. It's pretty impressive. Nowhere near as impressive as Star Citizen is going to be. But for a game like World of Tanks, which is just tanks throwing shells at each other, not even with Newtonian physics. I mean, guns that are lasers, not ballistic. It's beautiful. And the other thing is War Thunder, the other game I played, just had an update, and I think that is 1.39. And in that update, they had lots of flight model changes, and they added some aircraft. And I've been playing that game a lot. I am trying to get better at dogfighting, but I'm realizing after watching the dogfighting module that it's just not going to matter at all when it comes to Star Citizen. At least I'm getting better at that. The one thing I could tell you folks is it's going to be very important to communicate in the game. So if you can play games that are team-based action games like War Thunder or World of Tanks, you can get ready for Star Citizen. It's not going to be WoW or Guild Wars or any of those games. This is going to be a realistic flight sim where you're going to do better as a group than you do alone. So if you can get into games like War Thunder, World of Tanks, not World of Warplanes, don't play that game, you will definitely start to hone your skills flying together so you can actually wreak havoc in the Star Citizen universe. Don't have a lot more. There's not that much news up there, and I'm not going to steal the news that was taken and put up there this morning or this afternoon, so I can save some of that for a later video. But I'm very impressed with the dogfighting module, very impressed with the progress that CIG is making, and maybe someday they'll hire me to help them set up their presentations. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to another Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous. And right after this, we're going to have a confession of a Star Citizen addict. Thank you, and be safe out there. Hello, my name is Cordis, and I'm a shipaholic. I first heard about the game close to a year ago, but forced myself to focus on paying off my debt. Kept following the game, and at the end of June, being mostly caught up, I dipped my toe in the water with the Lightspeed package. 1 entire week later, I took the plunge, Rare Admiral package and Imperator subscription. Had I done just the sub and read up, I would have found out just how dangerous the Rare Admiral package would end up being. Thinking back, it probably wouldn't have stopped me, but it was an indulgence at the time and I still had a way to go to being in the black. I had gone nearly 2 months before the need surfaced, and I picked up the Caterpillar during the sale in September. Nerves calm, went about my business. About a month passed, I was caught up in bills and needed an outlet. Picked up the Arbiter, Pathfinder, Digital Bounty Hunter, and Digital Scout packages. What just happened? 2 more weeks go by, and there's the Weekend Warrior package. Good cause, donated. Found that I liked Hornets more than I thought I would. 10 days, and included the Advanced Hunter, Spectre, and Freelancer packages. 4 days pass, and I get the Cutlass since I missed my chance at the Pirate pack a while ago. At this point, I'm sitting on the Imperator sub and 10 packages, not just ships. Then the unthinkable happens. The sale. 1 week, and 8 ships later, I hit Grand Admiral. I need help. What ship should I get next? Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous. Today I have an interview with Eric Wingman Peterson. Welcome aboard, Eric.
Hey! Hi everybody! What's up, Nikki? How you doing?
The show.
Great. So, I mean,
I